Welcome back to Gold Derby. I'm pleased to be joined by Nathan Johnson, composer of Del Toro's new film, Nightmare Alley, which is in theaters on December 17th. Nathan, congratulations on the score. It's wonderful, and the film is so great. I was at the premiere, I guess, in New York last week, and Guillermo was like announcing like everybody, all the participants. I think he called you adorable, maybe, or so. He expressed a lot of affection towards you.
I'm putting that on my business card.
So it seems like you guys got along smashingly on this, I would guess.
Oh, he's so great. He's so lovely. He's adorable.
It definitely got like the biggest response at the screening. So it was really cool. But I guess I know I was doing research for this. I know like it was first reported that, at least publicly reported, that you were coming on board only like in mid-October. We're now talking it's December. The movie's coming out. I guess that's a quick turnaround and stuff. Can you talk about like, how you were approached for this and like, what those early conversations were like with Guillermo of what he wanted the score to sound like?
Yeah, it was definitely a whirlwind, but it was kind of amazing. It was such a smooth track from start to finish. He sent me the movie with no music in it, no temp score, no references, no nothing, and I just watched it dry. And after sitting there for sort of 5 minutes, being like, "Whoa, what did I just watch?" and kind of dealing with that ending, I kind of began to think about it in quite an architectural way. And I met Guillermo the next morning, and we talked a little bit about the music, but mostly talked about what the movie was and what these characters were doing. And I was really compelled, because I think in Western narrative, we're used to character arcs, right? Where the character starts here, goes through this big thing, and ends in a completely different place. My main thought was, this is so powerful that he's making a movie about this character that keeps hitting the same note and puts on all these masks, but by the end of the movie we strip everything away and he still hits that same note that he started with. And that was kind of what I proposed to Guillermo, was starting with a single piano note, just a very simple repeating note, and then bringing in dissonance right next to it, bringing in consonants. And as we kind of go through the carnival, it gets a bit bigger, and then we go to the big city, and we add in these kind of very open, lush harmonies, and it becomes a much more lush score, and kind of climaxes there as he's putting on these different masks, but that same note is there through the entire movie. And when we strip everything away, the last note we hear is the exact same note that we started with. So that was, and I don't think that's happened to me before, but this, I think it's a tribute to the singularity of vision that this movie was when I saw it. And it was kind of like, because I don't generally approach a score fully conceptually like that, but I felt like, rather than applying a meta concept, this movie was actually calling for that. And in a way, it kept telling us what it wanted.
It's incredible to hear you talk about this. And like, if you listening to the score, obviously like that, it's such a, I hate to say it's like such a great note, but it's such a great note. I guess like, even like, can you like, what, like, not to be a total Luddite, but what note is it? And like, how'd you come up with the exact note, I guess, for it? Because it's so great.
Well, it's an A. It's an A, which is very helpful. We recorded all the pianos on an old Motown Steinway with Chris Padishall in LA. And then when we got to the orchestra recordings, that A is always the note the orchestra is going to tune to. So, but immediately after that, we introduce a B flat, right, which is like the most dissonant interval that you can have. And that was something that Guillermo was talking about early on. He really wanted there to be a dissonance, but he kept saying, don't be afraid of melody in an atonal dissonant score. And that is, for me, that's like keys to the best sandbox. I mean, that's my favorite thing, where we can do a strongly thematic melodic score existing on top of very unsettling harmonies, and sort of, I just love playing with that consonance and dissonance, which these characters have in spades. For Lilith, for instance, Cate Blanchett's character, that first morning, I remember Guillermo saying that that character is the reason I made this movie. and I went home from that meeting and started writing. And we have this simple, beautiful oboe motif, but underneath it are these very non-descriptive string harmonies that are just very unsettling. And for Lilith, I just felt like she's like this placid, calm surface, and then underneath is a hurricane of power that Stan's character just doesn't clock at the beginning. He doesn't know what he's getting into. And so this was a really rich movie from a character perspective to get to play around with mirroring those things and kind of diving into, not so much the text, but the subtext.
Yeah. I mean, it's so great. And listening back to the score, I think it was released last week. So people, if they're watching this, could actually go and listen to it on whatever streaming platforms or go purchase it wherever they buy music. But you listen to it and having seen the film, it is like watching the film. Like I could see it in my mind, you know what I mean? Because it's like so evocative of, like you said, like the themes of the film and these character arcs. And like, yeah, like I just love it so much. Obviously the other main female character is Molly, right? Played by Rooney Mara. She also has a theme. Can you talk a little about like coming up with hers? Because I think she's obviously, like, I hate to put it like, it's like, like obviously Lilith and Molly are two different sides for Stanton to kind of reckon with. So I guess, can you talk about like how you went about Molly's theme, as it were?
Well, yeah, I mean, Molly, I think there's a beauty in Molly's character that leans towards hopefulness. And ultimately Stan, I think, is responsible for stealing a lot from the hope that he promises to her. And Guillermo said, don't give me a love theme for this, but you got to break my heart. And so after it's like, okay, how do you do that? But it's this element of, again, just like leaning into her. And that's like sort of the lovely thing about getting to come in as a composer and respond emotionally to these amazing performances. And it's a very simple motif, but the interesting thing about that is I feel like as Bradley Cooper's character Stan begins to sort of steal these elements from Molly, there's a scene when he's in Lilith's room and he actually steals Molly's theme and applies it. Excuse me.
That's okay, yeah. Okay.
Excuse me. I apologize. That's our medieval door alarm. I was talking about this, the theme, and Stan actually begins stealing that theme from Molly and applying it to Lilith in her room. So again, working with these different character motifs, we can kind of play with what's going on beneath the surface there.
Yeah, you're talking about Guillermo and like working with him. My sense is that, like, certainly on this project, and obviously, Shape of Water's Best Picture winner, he gets like my sense is he seemingly hires the best people for these departments, like, obviously music and production design and all these different things, and then like kind of like really lets you guys and women presumably like thrive in that environment. Was that like your experience, like kind of like 100%. How was it working with him in that front? Yeah.
100%. And to get the call from Guillermo, you're sort of pinching yourself, to be honest. And it's like, wow, I've looked up to him for years. He's such an artist. And then I meet with him and he says, I trust your instincts. I want you to do your thing. And it is so collaborative. It's like an open playground. And I think he has that thing that the best directors have, which is they know where the ship is going, but they are so excited to bring different craftspeople in and invite each of us to sort of, for us to respond to the world that they're creating.
Yeah. You obviously, this is based on a noir novel and like was made into a film, but prior, it sounds like obviously a lot of your process was literally going with what's in the film. But I guess, did you go, like, were you also thinking, and like, did you go back and watch the original, or like kind of like other noir stuff to like understand some of the musical choices in that era of filmmaking, or like were you mostly just focused on the characters? What was your process like?
Yeah, I actually went in fairly cold. I waited till after I was completely done to read the novel. And Guillermo was saying as that, one of the reasons there was no temp music is he said every time they tried to put music in, the movie would just expel it and reject it. So I kind of knew like, okay, I'm not going to find the key to this in looking at other things. I just need to dive in and really truly respond to what was on the screen and what Guillermo was creating, uniquely for this world.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's great. And like, it comes across so well. You're obviously, I know we have to wrap up here shortly. I know you're an accomplished composer. For people who don't know, you worked with your cousin Ryan on Knives Out and a bunch of his other films prior. I Not to put you on the spot, but a little. Are you going back for Knives Out too, or have you talked to Ryan about the music for that? And like,
Oh yeah,
I know people are very excited about that. The score for Knives Out is obviously incredibly good as well, and people can listen to that after they're done listening to Nightmare Alley. I guess like any teases on Knives Out too, or what you were thinking of for the music, because obviously I know this one is set, I think, in Greece, right? The sequel.
yeah.
So it's a different milieu, I guess. So how is that going to inform your musical choices?
I was actually, weirdly enough, I was actually on set for most of the summer on the Knives Out sequel, and working on that when I got the call.
Wow.
So I emailed Ryan and I was like, hey, obviously this is my first commitment, but I think we're going to have an edit, I think we can do this essentially before you've got an edit together.
Yeah.
And he would just wrote back in all caps. He was like, you have to go meet him. You have to do this. So there's a lot of love between Guillermo and Ryan, and but I am now diving back into the next Knives Out movie, and very, very excited about that.
Nice. Yeah, I think audiences will be as well. But Nightmare Alley comes first, and it's an incredible score. Like I said, Nathan Johnson, thank you so much. The film's out on December 17th, and you can listen to the score now. It really is this has been a really fabulous year for composers and scores. I think I grew like my first love was like listening to scores, and this year has been great, and yours is definitely a great one. Like one of my faves. So thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.